Hi, this is Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the President, Founder, and Chief Listening Officer here at our network at USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you so much to all of our guests, to our team members, to our sponsors, and to all of our elevated listeners. Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. We celebrate all of our team members, all of our guests, and all of our sponsors from around the world who come and lead their lives with their hearts to help other people walk into their greatness. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session. Please contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com and subscribe to our channel. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's Friday or Saturday, wherever you are in the world. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. Our topic is, I don't know who to trust, exploring trust issues with the star of our show and expert, Caroline Heward, the Harley Street stress expert. She's joining us from London today, where things are really heating up. Let's bring her out and see how she's doing. Hello, how are you?
Lovely to be here, Dr. Jacalyn.
We're having a little inside joke here, but go ahead.
It's much warmer here today, and I'm actually in a short sleeve top, and I'm without my fluffy slippers today. So.
Well, that is progress. And you know, it's funny because I was talking about this earlier in another show, but when it starts to stay light later and the temperature starts to get warmer, we feel happier. Why is that?
Well, that's the SAD syndrome, seasonal affective disorder. And so if there's less sun, then we feel our mood changes and we feel lower because the sun affects our mood. And it's a syndrome called SAD. It's short. Seasonal affective disorder is short for SAD. It really does. When the sun is not there, it affects our mood. It really does.
Yes, I agree. And I know from having grown up in the Northeast part of the United States where it was cold, not as cold as it is in the Midwest, I don't ever want to return to that weather again. I don't know what it is, but I just feel lighter and happier. And I know some people love the winter. They love the cold weather, but my blood is going, don't ever take me back.
It feels today in the UK, almost feels, certainly in London, it feels like spring has sprung.
You know, Caroline, I would love for you to just give us a quick overview of this. I haven't asked you about this before, but for people who are not familiar with London, how is London structured as a city? Is it like a grid where it's, you know, cross streets, and how would you describe it?
Well, it's the same as the whole of the UK, really. It's not square like America is. America's just straight. And in the UK, it's just not, you know, in England, it's not like that. We have roundabouts and turns and, you know, and little streets and, you know, it's very small. But what I would say is in the main, certainly in London, it's very concrete. You know, there's a lot of buildings, there's very little green. And, you know, because the green is a luxury because it's so expensive per square mile. So it's quite built up in terms of buildings, you know, offices and flats and houses. It's fairly built up, but it's small streets and, you know, turns and bends. So it's not straight like America.
You know, I actually didn't plan to do this, but it makes a lot of sense to tie in with what you just said. Sometimes life seems like it's very black and white, very straight and up and down. And other times it's sort of circuitous, you know what I'm saying, goes in circles or goes this way or that way, it deviates. So I think that has a lot to do with trust issues. So when you think about exploring trust issues, what comes up for you as a therapist?
Well, if I have an issue with trust with someone, it's because there's a mistrust or an issue within my heart chakra where my trust has been broken and I've not healed from that broken trust in a friendship, in a work situation, or in a relationship, or in an experience. Because trust resides in the heart chakra as an issue, and trust is the saboteur, and grief is the saboteur of the heart. And so, if you don't trust somebody in the external world, it's because there's a mistrust internally.
Okay, I want to build on that. I appreciate that. What if you don't trust someone because they've given you reason not to trust them?
Well, that's then the epitome that they have done something, and so then you have a mistrust because they've done something that's made you see, you evidenced with not trusting them. And it's different from, that's a very different scenario from not trusting someone and they've not done something. If somebody's clearly done a transgression, done a transgression against you, then there is then obviously a trust issue, because they've earned the right to not earn your trust. But if you're not trusting someone and they haven't done anything to you, or from afar or close to you, then there is a trust issue in you about that person, and it's about the vibration that they're carrying. It might be that they're similar in terms of their being to a friend or a colleague or somebody that you went out with or you had a relationship with that has a similar vibration, and then you automatically you don't trust them, that they didn't do anything to you. So that's an internal thing, and you're resonating at a vibration there. If they clearly did something wrong, of course, they haven't earned the right for your trust.
Yes, thanks for clarifying that. I know throughout most of my life, I've been the person who just trusts everyone. And I remember my father always saying that people have to earn your trust. And one of the really funny conversations we had, I had 3 dogs, but my one dog, I'm just going to show her because she's part of the story. My little Ritzy over here, Ritzy, she's just such a sweetheart. She was. Anyway, my father was talking to me about trust and that I shouldn't trust everyone. And he looked at Ritzy and he said, Ritzy, your mother trusts everyone. She thinks everyone's good. And Ritzy just looked and she turned her head like this, like looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I thought, even the dog gets it. So my question is, if you're someone like me who pretty much does trust everyone and gets burnt, you get burnt many times because people show you who they are and you think that, I'll just speak for myself. They show you things that the little flag goes up, right? Your little antenna go up and you're like, I don't know, this doesn't seem quite right. But yet they didn't do anything to you. So then you think, well, how can I determine that they're not trustworthy? Let me give them that gift of trust and let them decide what to do with it. But I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, Caroline. What do you think?
It does, because I live that way as well. And so, yes, I experience people that do betray that trust, and people that, they haven't earned it. And so they just do something that sort of takes that trust away. And then I feel hurt. And so that creates a situation for me. I put that trust in them. If somebody does something that takes away the trust, a betrayal or something that hurts me, then I'm very what's the word? I'm very strong in the fact that I will just leave them. If somebody betrays a trust and they do something like a transgression against me, I will just sort of know, and then I will be very wary. So I feel that it's much better to go in trusting everyone, and until they've done something or there's a feeling that sort of it's not quite right, And yes, you will get hurt that way. And
Well,
at the same time, I feel it's a better way to live, because when you go in with trust in every aspect for everyone, then what happens is that you actually get more people being considered trustworthy towards you.
and you and I get along really well because I think we have that same philosophy. It's just part of it. I do think about what my father said, and not to trust anyone until they prove that they're trustworthy. So in that case, you always have your guard up.
That's right.
But when someone does show you that they're trustworthy, then you can take a big sigh of relief. With the way you and I do it, we're trusting everyone, and then we get the rug pulled out from under us. So I don't know which way is the best way to be, because I feel like it takes so much work. Like for us, it's not a lot of work. It's like, okay, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you. And then we see what happens. In the other way, you're like, nope, nope, nope. So you're really kind of isolating yourself. And then when someone comes in and is trustworthy, you say, wow, now you're in my inner circle. With us, we let everyone in, only to find out that we shouldn't have done that. So I feel like the way we look at it causes it, we're self-destructive in a way, but yet that's how we are. So I don't know.
Well, I brought up this with one of my mentors from the Universal Peace Federation, and I had a huge betrayal, and he was mentoring me, and so we went through the betrayal, and he said, why are you trusting them? And the betrayal happened, and then I was working with this person, and so I said, well, if I'm working with this person, I have to still trust her. And he says, but she's betrayed you, so why would you trust her? Why would you go in there again? And I said, because I have to, because I'm working with her, and I have to trust that this person will be professional. And he says, no, he said, you shouldn't, and he was really quite worried for me. And I said, well, I have to, because I'm working, and if I don't trust, then how are we going to get the job done? Anyway, he was right, and there was a further betrayal, a bigger one. And he said, please don't give your passwords away, because I was giving this person my passwords. And then there was a bigger betrayal. And he said, look, he said, you've had this situation, and there's been a betrayal of your trust. Please don't go back in again. And after I'd done it for the third time, I then said, okay. And then I quit the team. And it was a big lesson. It was a huge, huge thing to learn. And the reason that I kept going back in is because this person she'd become a very dear friend, a really close friend that I trusted in a very deep way. And that was what really hurt, and it was something that I found challenging, because I couldn't believe that the betrayal was so big. I was really shocked. And this is how a narcissist works. A narcissist will really reel you in and really gain your trust and be everything to you, so that you really love them and you trust them. And then that's where the betrayal comes in. And so that's where the lack of belief that, how did they do that? Well, maybe that was just a misjudgment, that, sort of this person, sort of behaved like a narcissist. And I was already reeled in too far that I didn't want to not trust them. I thought maybe they're having an off day. And, it was very challenging. And at the same time, after that third betrayal from the same person, I have no interest in communicating with that person and having anything to do with them. So they lost a very dear friend because they were so abusive.
And thank you for sharing that. I'm sure at some level it's painful to revisit it. And I can understand what you're saying, because I felt that way before myself. And I've also found that with people who have narcissistic tendencies and who ingratiate themselves only to turn on you, that they show up again. Sometimes, like with you just talked about, they show up again. And it's that expression, a bad penny always turns up. It's almost as though, even though you've had the conversation, or you've let them know that, listen, I know that you betrayed me. I gave you my trust and you didn't. They explain it away, and you're kind of drawn in that, you know what, that probably makes a lot of sense. I probably was jumping to conclusions, or I didn't hurt that much. And now it's as though we did something wrong, and we let them back in again. And they know how to push our buttons. So I think when we explore trust issues, I think we have to maybe take a step back, which I literally do, take a step back and look at what is the bigger picture. Is it insecurity? Is it we're flawed in some way?
Absolutely not. It means that you have a very healthy heart chakra, and you're open and welcoming from the heart. When the heart chakra is closed, it means that you will mistrust everything and everyone. And that means, as you quite rightly put earlier on, that you're walking through life on your guard, which takes a lot of energy. It's much kinder to yourself to be open and compassionate and trusting all. And at the same time, it's hugely challenging when you're on your guard and you don't trust anybody. That's a lot of energy that's wasted. And it's in this conversation that I had with my mentor, he was very worried about me, and he was kind of warning me, saying, look, you've described the situation and I'm not happy that you're still there, And I said, but I have to trust, because there is a working relationship here. And he recounted a story about his main mentor, Father Moon. And he said that he was persecuted in a lot of ways over many years. He still went in. And he said, if I don't trust, then my heart isn't open. And he went in whatever stance or whatever event or circumstance, and he just trusted everyone. Even though he was incarcerated, he trusted. Same for Nelson Mandela. Even though he was incarcerated, he trusted that he was living his truth. And so, when you come against people like that, when you're living in your truth, then you become an open vessel of trust. Obviously, if somebody's done something bad to you, then you will be questioning of that trust. But trust is something that makes you quite open and welcoming and compassionate from the heart center.
Thank you. And a lot of things are coming up, and I'm just wondering, you were talking about this relationship that you had, and it was through a business situation. When we get burned in business, it can hurt just as much as when we get burned personally, because when you're working with someone on a regular basis, there is that trust, and there's also a relationship that is built in most cases. And when it's a personal relationship or a love interest relationship, that can be heartbreaking, but it can also be heartbreaking in a business situation as well, because you are making decisions about things together, and you think you're on the same path, and you think you have the same ideas. You don't have to have the same ideas, but you discuss them and you come to a path going forward. And in the meantime, the other person is undermining whatever it is for their own reasons. So what I would like to know is, as we discuss this and we're both just exploring our own feelings about it, is that once you've been burned by one person, two people, however many people, you start to close off yourself. So your heart, which was really open, is now going, hey, you better put up a wall here, because I'm starting to get bashed around a little bit, and it's not healthy. So what do we do in that case?
Well, then we hurt ourselves. So when we have that wall up, then no one else can get in. And then, we hear that there's conversations and cliches about, you've got a big brick wall around you and nobody can get in, and so even the kind people and the nice people and, the people that really mean the good things for you and want to give you all the good stuff in life, you've even walled them off as well. And so it is about getting a good antennae, to sort of weed out the ones that, have got that same vibration. There isn't, a big recipe on this, because I've been hurt many times. I don't feel that in life it actually helps you to be shut down and to be unopen, because it hurts you more than it hurts the other person. And the other person will go through life, if they're a narcissist, and hurting everybody, but then they're not experiencing life, they're existing. And then I go into a place of compassion, because if they're not living and they're existing, then they're really suffering, and I'm not, so having an open heart, that person that did that transgression against me, she's lost my friendship forever. She can never walk back in. And, that is enough, for me to feel comfortable that she can't get in again. And that's good. And even though I miss that friendship, because it was a very close friendship and it's very sad, and that's probably why, sort of I let her in a few times after the transgression, because I was really shocked. I couldn't believe that she could be so mean. And at the same time, this is how a narcissist works. This is exactly what they do, and they get you when you're very vulnerable. And then you trust, and then they betray the trust, and then it's about what you do with it. So in the end, I actually left the project, so that was some feedback, and some, I had 3 mentors at the time, and one of them was my beautiful monk, and he told me to get out of there. He says, you must stop, get out of the team. And they were all telling me, but I just wouldn't have it. And that was me digging my heels in, because I didn't want to appear that I'd failed. And that's something else that happens in a working situation, that when I commit to doing something, I do my very best to fulfill it. So it was a very tricky situation, and from it I've grown, and from it I've learned, and from the situation I've grown exponentially, because it happened in a voluntary capacity that was also a working situation.
I really appreciate what you just said. And I just want to ask you, in reference to the situation you described, some people might be thinking, well, if I was in that situation, and by the way, I'm not one of these people, I'm just throwing it out there. If I was in that situation, I would not quit. I would do everything I could to get rid of them. And that in itself is a huge amount of work. And from there, that person or those people, are going to continue doing what they're doing to someone else. And it's kind of like, where is the line drawn about doing something to prevent the person from continuing what they're doing, knowing that you can't prevent anyone from doing anything?
Well, that relationship was actually narcissistic, and I was caught very unawares. And now I have had an experience of that. I won't get into that again. So it's about learning, through an experience. My beautiful monk actually said, you don't need to be there. You don't need to do this. And I said, oh, yes, I do. I made a commitment. He said, okay, then, if you please. And then he said, you don't have to do this part of it. You don't have to go every day. And I said, no, I have to, because I've committed. He said, oh, if you want to, if you please. And this was, sort of how he was. I kept justifying, yes, I have to. And then he said, okay, then, because that was clearly my learning, my lesson. And he was trying to persuade me not to go through the torture. And I did, because I did, I wouldn't put myself through that again. I would actually, what I've learned is, if something's not working and I've committed, because that was my learning, if I've committed to something, I will just go to the 11th hour and do everything I can to fulfill a commitment. And what I learned from that experience is that, and that was that trust and that commitment. And what I learned from it is sometimes some things don't work. And sometimes, it's possible that you made a mistake in what you committed to. And it's okay. It's totally okay to say, this is not working. I've made a mistake. I'm going to withdraw from this commitment. And that's what I learned from that experience in that project. And it was big. It was huge, because I used to push myself through commitments, even though I knew that they weren't right for me. And that was my inner driver of, if I don't fulfill the commitments that I've made, then I failed. And that was something that I had to learn and grow through. And so in essence, I have only gratitude for that experience.
I love the way you reframed that. That's really important.
I actually thanked the person as well. I did thank her. I says, I learned so much from that, but I won't do it again.
What was the person's reaction?
She was a bit shocked.
Speechless?
Yes. It was like, oh. It was, and now I don't, I don't have to give that person this time, and my heart. I don't have to give them my friendship, and if anything, they lost a very dear friend. They lost, everything that I was giving from a big place of integrity. I've lost nothing.
Yes, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. I used to be so intent on finding out why. Why did you do this? And then I realized that's just who they are. You don't have to get the answer. You don't have to get the closure in that regard. You can find closure through yourself by saying, that relationship didn't serve me. I forgive the person because that's what I have to do for myself, and I need to just walk away. But when I was younger, I would just be tortured by it, and I'd have to have an answer. And the truth is, you never get the answer that you want, because it's not going to take away what happened, and it's not going to take away your pain. You have to take it away yourself by working on yourself and realizing that's the other person's stuff. But sometimes we just put it on ourselves and say, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You just got involved with a narcissist. I mean, that, you error of judgment. So for educational purposes, I think this would be interesting. What are some of the red flags that, if we see or feel this happening when we meet someone, whether it's through business or personal, that we should start to question whether or not we want to get involved with them?
Well, it's, sort of that good old gut instinct, it's what feels comfortable. And, at the time that friendship was really blossoming, and it was a really, really good friendship. But when it changed, it was when I became vulnerable. And that was when my baby brother passed away, and I was a bit of a mess, and I was not myself. And that's when it changed. And so, what would I do differently from that perspective? Well, I was being human, but then I got strong. I got really strong because of the experience. So the red flag is really, sort of your gut instinct. Does this feel right? And if you're very vulnerable and raw, after a bereavement or a breakup in a relationship, then it's not so easy. It's a little bit difficult to know, because you're more open and vulnerable. And this is where a narcissist can actually get in and exploit that. And the other red flag that I would really, keep a lookout for is, and it's a feeling. Does this feel right? Is there like a mismatch? Is there, sort of, sometimes you kind of just keep crossing each other like this, you slide off each other. And if it doesn't work, don't push it. If it's supposed to work and you're supposed to be in that relationship, whether it be business, friendship, or a personal, intimate relationship, then it will feel right. And so it will slide well, and you will, do the dance well. And if it's, sometimes things are really working out and the dance is good, and then suddenly it stops, or it stops working, or, sort of the connection has broken. And what happens is when the lesson is learned, when the friendship, we're in friendship, or we're in a relationship for a reason, a season or a lifetime. And if the reason is over, then sometimes what happens is there's like sort of arguments, or that sort of something, happens, and there's an upset in that friendship or relationship. And there's a blame game, and you did this and you shouldn't have done that. And it's really because the reason is done, it's been met. And so instead of, we all, like to play the right and wrong game. And when the reason is done and it's been met, the sacred contract is fulfilled, then that relationship can just literally disappear. And so nobody did anything right or wrong. The reason that you were meant to be together as a friend or in a relationship with them is because that reason has been fulfilled.
The reason and the season, right? And people come and go, but at the same time, or when it initially happens, it's really tortuous because we just...
Very much so. I've lost so many friends because I keep changing things and moving, and every time I've changed careers a number of times, and I'm really in an evolved journey, since my dad passed away. And during that time, people have left me. Well, I keep saying they've left me, but actually, even my then husband, he turned around to me and he said, I didn't leave you, you left me. And I thought that was really amazing, because he wasn't a particularly spiritual man, and yet he knew that I had left. I had changed. Since my dad died, I'd literally changed everything. The way that I worked, I changed my career, I changed what I was doing for a living, and I became much more, therapist instead of a marketing person. And it wasn't the person he married. And when he said that, it made me realize that he didn't leave me. It was that I changed and I left, and it was a new perspective, that I had to handle. And many times I've lost friendships, and it's only because I've moved on. I had a beautiful, amazing, really, really strong friendship, and we've been friends for 25 years. And it was like, I thought that was a lifetime friendship, would never end. And there were some things that happened, and, it stopped working. And then when that friendship finally ended, this beautiful monk walked into my life and became my new best friend. And we did a lot of the things that I did with the other friend. And it was like, that the frequency, I had changed, and I needed to be open and free for that beautiful other friendship to come in. And so I realized that if I was still holding on to that friendship that wasn't working, I would never have had the experience of being the friend and having that very close friendship with the monk.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, it happens, and it's like, I kept saying, I'm really upset that I lost my friendship. And he says, you must stop thinking about it like that. He said, because you didn't lose it. People change, and your reasons change. And he says, anyway, he said, we wouldn't have had that friendship. You
Right.
wouldn't have met me. And it was just amazing, and I'm so grateful that I became open, that I had space for him to come in, before he died. And, I feel very blessed that I had that time with him.
And you are very blessed. I think probably people all over the world, as a result of the pandemic and being isolated and having to rethink things and losing people, losing businesses, I think people probably have really looked at their lives and who's in their life and how does it feel in your body, what makes sense, what doesn't. I know for me, my whole life is completely different now. And the relationships I had, the friendships I've had are pretty much over. But in the meantime, look at all the people who've come in. Look at, you and Madeline and Roland and Red and Diane. I could go on and on and on, just people from all over the world. And if I were still in the same place, doing the same things with the same people, this would not be happening. So I think if we look at things from a different perspective and appreciate what we have today and appreciate what we did have took us to where we are, and what we have today is going to take us to where we're going.
And it's a grieving when a friendship or a relationship ends, no matter, whether they're female or male, or whether we're bisexual or heterosexual, or whether it's a business or a friendship, it is a bereavement. It's a grieving, especially if they're still alive, they haven't died. And so there needs to be a process of allowing that letting go and that grieving to happen. So that you feel fulfilled and complete. And yes, my life has completely changed. I'm not running here and running there as much as I used to be. And I now I've got, like, even though I had quite a world following previously, I've got much more of a world following now than ever before, because of being in USA Global TV and radio. And we wouldn't have had the friendship that we have, and I feel that I've gained incredible friendships by doing this work on this channel, and people finding out about my work. And that would never have happened if I was stuck in my heels, and saying, I'm only going to do face-to-face, and I really was stuck there. I'm only going to do face-to-face, I'm not going online. And that was my thing. And when I let that go, suddenly my whole world opened up. And I'm hugely grateful for that. And that was a trust. That was a trust that I would be okay.
Lots for us to think about ourselves in our own lives is having that trust. And again, I still feel like you and I, with the way we trust everyone, is a beautiful way to be. I'm not judging the other way, the way my dad was. He was kind of hardened in a number of ways because of things that had happened to him. And I feel that when we are betrayed, when we do trust the wrong person, the wrong situation, that in and of itself is a learning experience. And what can we learn from it? And how can we let go of it? And there was something on Instagram. I mentioned this yesterday. Now let me think of what it is. Your past is a lesson. It's not a lifetime imprisonment. Something like that. Of course.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. But yet we do that. We torture ourselves about something that we did in the past, and it comes up to haunt us over and over again. And I know that through the work that you do with people, we were just having a chat about this last night, of course, the middle of the night for you, but that many times what we're going through in life literally manifests itself on our body, in how we feel. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we wrap up today?
Yes. We're human, and we're all having an experience, a human experience. And so we have situations that we have to handle, and some of them are difficult. And certainly, that if there's sickness in the family, for instance, or if there's a bereavement in the family, then we all handle it in different ways. And what happens is that, especially if there's something going on in the family, and you're the person that's looking after the person, or the main person that's responsible, what happens is that you go into the logical, practical, and physical of what needs doing. And then what happens is that the emotions are not allowed to come into play, because you're in the doing. And when you're in the doing, you almost have to suppress the emotions to keep being in the doing. That there may be sadness, there may be heartache, there may be, certainly if somebody has any mental health issues, or things like dementia or cancer, then the person that is no longer there in the same way. And if you're caring for that person, then the relationship changes. The relationship is different. It's not where it was previously. And you will find that you're almost in a living, grieving process with that person, because you're grieving the relationship that was versus what it's become. And the challenge with that is you're still in the doing and the practical of the care for that relationship and that person. And so it affects our body, because we're traumatized by it. And so if there is anything that affects, certainly in family or in our relationships, that can affect the root chakra, which is our foundation, our security, our family, our relationships. And that can affect things like, sort of as big as it's going to sound, it can bring in things like high blood pressure. It can affect the bones, the skeletal. It can affect the immune system, and it can affect the skin. And what we tend to do when we're looking at the Western world and the Western culture, that we will treat the symptom without really realizing that there's a root cause, something behind it that's creating this symptom. And the way that I work is I like to work with the root cause so that the person can process and integrate what they're not handling in terms of the emotions and feelings that affect the body.
I feel like we have another show there, which is, I can't think of the exact words, but grieving the loss of a relationship when the person's still around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a big topic. So we have to conclude because Pet Psychic Amina is coming up right after this. So Caroline, please share with people about how they can connect with you about the one symptom, the 30-minute stress buster. It's so helpful. And I encourage everyone to write down this information and get in contact with Caroline.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, I offer a free 30-minute stress buster consultation, whether it be on Zoom, on Skype, or by call. And you can reach me and connect with me and schedule your free 30-minute stress buster consultation by emailing me on NoMoreStress@live.co.uk. or telling me what the problem is. I bust through one symptom for you for free, and you will feel incredibly relaxed, and more to the point, you'll have an incredible deep and restful sleep where you'll wake up in the morning feeling really rested and refreshed. Or you can call me on +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. And it can be anything, any type of symptom, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's relationship-wise, whether there's something going on in terms of bereavement, a relationship issue, anger management, or physical, whether it's high blood pressure, stress, anxiety, depression. And I look forward to helping you bust your stress and move into a space of a deep, peaceful heart, so that you move from mind to heart to create that inner peace.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Another great show. And I'm going to leave our audience with this. This is the Listening Mentor Show, and we are all about listening at an elevated level. We would love to have you join our team at USA Global TV and Radio by becoming an elevated listener. It's very easy, and we offer all kinds of courses. Caroline has a course. Caroline, we're going to play the Power of Listening video, and please let people know which course is yours.
The course that I'm doing is the journey of the chakras, chakra psychology, and it's a healing journey of the 7 major chakras. It's a 30-minute course, so it's a very quick course for you to digest, and you'll be aware of what each of the chakras are, and in alignment with that, you will actually go through a healing journey of your own through your course.
Thank you, Caroline. Caroline and I are signing off. Here is the video, and please do stay with us. We'll be right back with Pet Psychic Amina. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
I just can't take it anymore. I am so tired. I am so frustrated and burnt out. Why won't anyone listen to what I have to say? Yet I look on social media and everybody's smiling and having a great time. Meanwhile, I feel totally alone with my world rushing by. Guess what? Great news. You have a choice. You can change the dynamic by learning how to listen at an elevated level yourself through the power of listening educational courses. Can you imagine from where you are today to having a life overflowing with abundance? It's possible. Learn how to listen at an elevated level. You'll have deeper connections, better relationships, and more authentic conversations. Start today. Go to usaglobaltv.com, education, and learn how to listen. We have courses and children's books. Let's work together to learn how to listen.